I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to Finextra TV. Kindly calling into our virtual studio now is John Farrell, Senior Vice President, Product for Volante Technologies. So, John, welcome to our virtual studio. It's good to have you on.
Great to be here, Hannah. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So today we're speaking off the back of Volante and Finextra's recent research together that looks at payments modernisation, the cloud imperative. So it'd be great if you could kick things off and start by giving a brief introduction to the report's main aims and objectives. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, well, as you probably know, we're very interested in payments as a service here at Volante. It's one of the key focuses of our business is to be able to bring to the market kind of an all-in-one package that allows banks to kind of rapidly evolve and rapidly change and take advantage of not only new technologies, but these new payment schemes, types, both private and public sector, that are coming up on a regular basis. And this is happening all over the world. So we wanted to look at this research and make sure, that we're on the right track. I think it kind of clearly shows that. And and I think we're seeing it too from a demand perspective in the market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it found that adoption of platform as a service models is on the rise, didn't it? So can you run us through why you think this is?
So there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the obvious ones that we've all dealt with over the last 18 months is kind of been sped up by COVID. I think a lot of banks, financial institutions, or any kind of corporate entities for that matter, it became very obvious when everybody went home how much they actually did depend on the cloud and how it was appropriate for mission critical applications. And I think it fast forwarded that evolution by quite a bit. So we're seeing that, while they might have been willing to dip their toe in it, all of a sudden now this as a service is really just part of the core of their business. And I think secondarily, I've been in this payment space for 15, 16, maybe 17 years. And this is, without a doubt, the most rapid, most ubiquitous amount of change we've seen in the industry. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the ISO standards, whether it's the proliferation of private and public sector payment schemes, whether it's real-time payments coming to almost every corner of the world. So basically what used to be kind of a standard back office business that you had to do kind of a limited amount of care and feeding to has all of a sudden become front and center, massive amounts of change, massive amounts of competitive advantage in moving first. So those are the types of things that are really moving this forward.
It's incredible to see how quickly things have moved on, I agree. And with over 50 real-time payment systems live across the globe today, there's ample of choice, but of course, some complexity that goes with that. So what are the issues here? What are financial institutions currently facing when connecting to real-time schemes? What about that?
Yeah, so again, depending on the profile of the bank, any global bank could have 8 or 10 new schemes coming on a year. Right? In the payment space, that's a massive amount of change. And they're looking for places like or offerings like Volante where we can be the aggregator of that change, right? If the payment schemes themselves, they all vary, some to a lesser extent, some to a greater extent. But even just onboarding the bank onto a rail is important, but you still have to maintain it. And if they can kind of get that economies of scale of having a provider like us not only build it but care for it and feed it over time, and rapidly onboard them, it really makes it a pretty good offering. What you're going to see next are these RTP schemes starting to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. So at some point you'll see a ubiquitous RTP cross-border capability, which in some small areas of the world that's already happened, but that will get more and more widespread. And again, that increases complexity. It makes a better experience for the customer, of course. And, you don't send a payment off in the ether and wait for it to arrive based on some kind of nebulous instructions. You actually know it's going to hit that day. So you're seeing stuff like that happening right now.
Mm-hmm. So increased choice and more complexity. This is something we're seeing a lot around cross-border payments as well, isn't it? So can you tell us a bit about how this landscape's evolving then?
Yeah, so cross-border payments, if you really look at it, the delta between a cross-border payment and, say, the payment of accounts payable domestically, they're starting to look a lot alike, right? The world's getting smaller and rounder every year. Having this one-off, very, very special, very proprietary process to move money from one country to another, people are asking why does that still exist? How can I do this within the same process flows I have for processing my domestic payments? And you're seeing the big players jump into that. A bunch of, you've got Visa in there, MasterCard in there. You've got some of the big banks like JP Morgan Chase and Citibank offering these kind of ubiquitous cross-border services. So I think it's really customer driven, right? While, in the past, when I was a kid, sending a cross-border payment was an event. Now it just happens every week. It's just part of the business. So why not make it easy? And that's what we're seeing out there. And those capabilities are just going to continue to grow and continue to have more reach.
All right, exactly. And so I'm hearing you out, and it's obvious that part of the reason platform as a service and cloud adoption is speeding up is clearly to address this complexity you talk about, right? So what should financial institutions look for in a cloud service then? What's your advice?
Well, I think if they're looking at a PaaS solution or payment as a service solution, you're going to want reach. I think if you look at the traditional infrastructure that a bank supports for payments, they're typically supporting a stack for each payment type. I need something for ACH. I need something for RTGS. I need something for faster payments. And when you look at a PaaS solution, if you can get a one-stop shop there, the economics are going to look excellent. And the, your care and feeding, your maintenance, your crowdsourcing, that type of stuff. And really, at the end of the day, getting a better service. And again, depending on the size of the bank, you're going to get kind of resiliency capabilities that you normally wouldn't have been able to afford. Of course, the big banks have that capability. But I think as you go down market, they wouldn't necessarily been able to afford and maintain that kind of that kind of non-functional kit that is required in today's 24/7 world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Some really interesting insights there. I'd love to end on a little bit about what Volante is doing in this space and what we can expect from the future.
Yeah, so we're as you might imagine, we're very active in this space. As I said at the top, that reticence to look at a cloud-based solution, while I wouldn't say it's evaporated, it is a very, very different attitude than it was even 18 months ago. And we're seeing a ton of activity in the space from everywhere too, right? We're seeing it in the Americas, we're seeing it in Europe, we're seeing it in Africa. That willingness to pick a service provider who's a one-stop shop, who will do all the care and feeding, do all the maintaining, and offer you world-class services. So we're pretty excited about it. We're continuing to improve our product. As in this space, as you know, it's never done, but we're continuing to improve our offering. We're not just focusing on the typical give me Swift or give me Fedwire. We're looking at alternatives like we talked about earlier, some of these privately sponsored payment schemes that are out there, whether they're domestic or cross-border. So we're really expanding this space. We're getting, and the other interesting thing, and I've touched on this, is we're getting a lot of interest up and down the tier levels. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of interest from tier 1 banks down to tier 3, 4, 5 banks. And our sales guys are pretty excited about it too. So.
Brilliant. Well, John, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your insights. Some good advice weaved in there as well. And I urge anyone to learn a bit more to go and download that report and have a read. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna. It was great to be here.